with that, I am going to go ahead and begin this meeting. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you. I see two new people. First off, I'm going to ask, we're going to mute everybody so that we can hear our speakers. So if you want to talk later, you will have to unmute yourself. So let's get everybody muted. Anyway, and so thank you for coming. I see several new faces that I'm really excited about. And so welcome to the League, all of our new members who have joined us today. Laura Marcus Mountjoy is not here today. She usually does the new member welcome. So if I could just ask new members to, I know Kelly is one, and do we have any other new members here today? Okay, so welcome, Kelly. Thank you. We're so glad.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yep. All right, and with that, I'm going to let Cheryl introduce our speaker, because Cheryl Viewfinger has put this program together for us. Thank you, Cheryl.
You're welcome. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, good. You probably can't tell on the screen, but I'm wearing a green sweater, and it's not just because of upcoming St. Patrick's Day, but in the last few years, the League has done an environmental themed meeting in March instead of April, because there's always such a crush of people meeting, highlighting the earth in April. But anyway, we do support the environmental issues, and we're thrilled to have Haley Stock be our presenter today. Haley is a freshman economics major at Rockhurst University and secretary treasurer of LEAP, that's LEAP. And the student organization has recently also been named RUG, R-U-G, Rockhurst, University Green. LEAP is dedicated to promoting sustainability on Rockhurst campus and beyond. Haley Stock is passionate about women's rights, working class rights, and intersectional environmentalism. Her mother is a past member of the League. And now here is Haley, and we welcome her.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to thank you for having me here. It's such a great opportunity to be presenting. And as Cheryl mentioned, I'm an economics major, and some of you might say, like, why would someone who cares about the environment major in economics? It's because I would love to get a PhD in economics with like an emphasis in socialist economics. I'm much more dedicated to the idea of not being a part of capitalism to the extent that I can be not be a part of capitalism. But that's what I'm really interested in when I say that I'm majoring in economics. And I'm also minoring in French. Yeah, so I've actually been speaking French since I was in kindergarten. I went to Academy Lafayette, which is a French immersion school. Yeah, so. And I recently became secretary / treasurer of LEAP or RUG, whichever one you want to call it. We're currently trying to transition our name into RUG, like Rockhurst University Green. It wasn't necessarily my idea, but that's our new name. And I've only been a part of this club for a few months, but I already feel so compelled by it. I love being a part of the club. I love being involved in environmentalism, and I can't wait to share this presentation for you. Oh, and I forgot to mention, my career goals are hopefully to also maybe go to law school and specialize in intellectual property and work in the fashion industry representing sustainable small businesses. So this is definitely up my alley. Yeah. And as secretary / treasurer of RUG, some of my duties include taking the minute for RUG, and also getting into contact with fellow members of RUG. And finally, probably my biggest duty is to get the semester budget for RUG and present it to the school board, like the student activities board, so that we have our funding for the semester. So that's definitely my biggest task. But enough about me. I'm here to present about how you can get involved in environmentalism in Kansas City. So let's see. So the first thing I'm going to talk about are the organizations that promote sustainability in Kansas City. You could just skip those slides. So the first organization I have is Canby's Market. And Canby's Market is an organization in Kansas City dedicated to mitigating food insecurity in low-income neighborhoods in Kansas City and reducing food waste in Kansas City. Canby's Markets effectively make sure that people in low-income neighborhoods have access to fresh produce and that produce is salvaged. And so essentially what they're attempting to do is to make sure that people in food deserts have the kind of nutrients they need to get through the day, while also making sure that, like, since a lot of food goes to waste, making sure that that food doesn't go to waste, and that that it's ultimately consumed, or if it's inedible, they usually turn it into soil through composting. And they also, yeah, I mean, that's essentially what they do. And how to get involved. Okay, so you can get involved at Camby's by volunteering in a group to help sort the produce so that people in low-income neighborhoods are receiving the highest quality produce possible. You could also make a monetary donation to Camby's, but you don't necessarily have to. Like, I always say, like, do what you can and what you're willing to, So yeah, that's Canby's Market, and I will compile a PDF with all the information of the organizations I'm listing. So if you want to contact them, you can. I haven't done it yet, but I'll probably get it done over the weekend and make sure that you guys all have a copy of it. And hopefully I'll get that sent out by email. Yeah. And so the second organization I'm going to talk about is Compost Collective Kc. So this is an organization in Kansas City dedicated to reducing food waste by collecting people's food waste by curbside. They then take the food waste and compost it. So Compost Collective Kc is fairly straightforward in what it does. A person simply leaves their food waste at their curbside, and weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, Compost Collective Kc comes to pick it up. So you can get involved at Compost Collective Kc by signing up to their service on a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly basis. And Compost Collective Kc does cost a regular fee, so it is understandable if you're not willing or able to participate in it. It's the only organization I have on here that does cost money, so I just keep that in mind. And the third organization is Scraps Kc. Now, I love Scraps Kc. I've definitely visited Scraps Kc with RUG, and it's a fantastic place to just get art supplies for very low prices. But it's also a great resource in the Kansas City community. So all right, Scraps Kc is an organization in Kansas City dedicated to providing used or excess art and school supplies at very low prices and providing a place of rest for the homeless community of Kansas City. In selling used or excess art and school supplies, they also help prevent waste from accumulating in Kansas City. So Scraps Kc has an annual school supplies drive for low-income students where they gather used or excess school supplies and donate them to students in need. They also supply the homeless with free meals in exchange for volunteering time. And you can get involved at Scraps KC by coming in and purchasing any of their items, donating items, or volunteering your time in a variety of ways. Like I know a girl who comes in to Scraps every week with her recycling so that they can maybe find something in it that they could that could be donated or could be used again. So I think that that's really interesting. Um, and finally, the fourth organization is, I'm sure you've all heard of this one, Bridging the Gap. Bridging the Gap is an organization in Kansas City dedicated to fostering community in Kansas City and building a more sustainable local economy. They are partnered with multiple organizations dedicated to the same mission, such as the Heartland Tree Alliance and Kc Wildlands. So what they do, Bridging the Gap fosters community. Oh, I already said that, never mind. Okay, so you can volunteer with any of the organizations Bridging the Gap is partnered with, such as Heartland Tree Alliance and Kc Wildlands. And they're partnered with multiple organizations that promote sustainability in Kansas City. And I'd say they're like the most far-reaching organization dedicated to sustainability in Kansas City because they're just partnered with so many other organizations. So for example, like depending on the organization, you can do any kind of volunteering. Like for example, I saw on the Kc Wildlands website that you can actually collect seeds and plant them in the Kc Wildlands to help rebuild the Kc Wildlands and like essentially renew them. So that's really cool. Yeah, so that's it for the organizations. If we could move to the next slide. So policies that promote sustainability in Kansas City. Okay, so the first policy is improving public transportation. Now, I know that public transportation is free in Kansas City, but I think there's kind of no point in making it free if it's still not effective for a lot of people. I know that I've attempted to do public transportation a lot of times, and like there have been times where my bus doesn't come or like it comes 30 minutes late. And I think that it's nice that it's free. But again, if we're really trying to make Kansas City less reliant on cars, I think it would be really important to make it more reliant on public transportation. Like I would love if we could reach a point where public transportation is just the new normal, because I think it's such a fantastic way to like see more of the community, be active and not have to obviously burn gas. Yeah, it's a very equitable thing at its best, and I think that we should really focus on improving it. So that's the major thing that we should focus on advocating for in Kansas City. I mean, one of the major things for sustainability. And the ways that you can advocate for it is, of course, lobbying, getting people to sign petitions, organizing protests, general things like that. So the next policy is reducing food waste. So reducing food waste is this is obviously an important thing everywhere, but I think that one of the ways we can reduce food waste is to have a local compost, something like the Compost Collective, but I would love for it to be like a government thing so that people don't have to pay for it, or maybe perhaps like a bit of their taxes go to it, where people can essentially just leave their food waste out on the curb and someone can come and collect it and compost it. Obviously, this isn't a governmental thing, but I think that it should be a part of the government. Like I think that we should rely less heavily on nonprofits and more on the government to accomplish sustainability. Obviously, that's not necessarily possible now, but I would like to get to a point where it is possible, where like the government is willing to do the majority of the work in promoting sustainability, because I don't think that it should be on the individual to promote sustainability. Even though I think it's great if you want to promote sustainability, I think that ultimately the government should be responsible for taking care of the environment. You know, it should do its duty as a government. But yeah, I would love for that to be a government policy, just having some way to take food waste and compost it for everyone in the Kansas City community. And like I said, ways to advocate for it are just lobbying, getting petitions signed, um, starting protests, or starting petitions. Yeah, so if we want to move on to the next policy, that would be great. So this policy is mitigating food insecurity. So I think this is where intersectional environmentalism comes in. And intersectional environmentalism is different than environmentalism because it understands that in order to protect the environment, you have to care for the community first. And if you care for humanity, if you care for your community, then it will help the environment in turn. So in mitigating food insecurity is one of the ways to do this. If people have access to foods that aren't packaged, that don't contribute negatively to the environment, then they'll be more likely to purchase those foods and not contribute things to the contribute negatively to the environment. And a lot of people in Kansas City live in food deserts, which means that they don't necessarily have access to fresh produce on hand. And by making sure that people do have access to affordable fresh produce, we could mitigate food insecurity and also just improve the environment in general. And the best ways to advocate for this are lobbying, signing petitions, and protesting, and just organizing community in general. So yeah, next one.
We're the Midland.
Okay, so this one is mandating climate education. I believe that it's really important for kids to have an understanding of climate change and the environment from an early age. And I think that it's just a part of social responsibility, like finding ways to care for the environment. And I think that if you teach kids how to care for the environment at a really young age, they're more likely to do it. So I think that, for example, even as early as like kindergarten, you can have a class where maybe you go exploring nature and you just really develop a connection with the environment. Because I think that all great environmentalism is based on like an emotional connection to the environment. So that's important. And I think that we would go about doing that by making sure that like Kansas City Public Schools have some kind of mandate for climate education. And we could do this by, like I said, lobbying, signing petitions, and organizing people into supporting mandating climate education. Yeah. Okay, so this is the fun one. Activities you can do to promote sustainability in Kansas City. So for the activities, I think that though this is fun and it's a way to be creative, I think that the activities like doing something by yourself is not necessarily the best way to improve the environment. So take everything with everything I say with a grain of salt, what I'm about to say, because I think that the best way to improve the environment is as a community. So if you can organize people to do all the things I'm about to talk about, that would be even better. But, like I said, but at the same time, individual efforts still matter. So the first activity I have is growing native plants. So growing native plants is important for sustainability because it nurtures the natural environment of Kansas City. It is better to grow native plants because, unlike invasive plants, they do not inhibit the growth of other plants. So you can plant native plants by simply researching what plants are native to Missouri and how to care for them. Some plants that are native to Missouri include butterfly milkweed, purple coneflower, and blue false indigo. And I've compiled, there should be additional resources on the PDF I'll compile. So, but if you could see, there's pictures of plants that are native to Missouri. So if you want to check that, you can maybe do research on what other plants are native to Missouri and how to care for them. And you can, even develop a native garden. I think that would be super cool. And activity 2 is, of course, composting. Composting is important for sustainability because it turns biodegradable materials that might otherwise go to a landfill into soil that replenishes the environment through providing plants with nutrients they need. Things that end up in landfills are typically burned and release carbon dioxide into the air, contributing directly to climate change. So you can compost by assembling a compost pile on bare earth, laying twigs and straw, adding compost materials in layers, adding manure, keeping the compost moist, covering the compost, and turning the compost, which means like turning it over. Though composting is certainly laborious, it is well worth it, and you can start out small and grow your compost from there. So you don't have to have like a huge compost thing. You could just maybe have like for example, like a small bucket of compost. And like I said, there should be additional resources on the PDF I'll compile. So activity 3 is adopting a plant-forward diet. Adopting a plant-forward diet simply means prioritizing plant-based foods over animal products. Adopting a plant-forward diet means relying less on animal products and in turn reducing your carbon footprint. So you can adopt a plant-forward diet by perhaps incorporating one plant-based meal into your diet. You could also adopt a plant-forward diet by exploring the world of plant-based foods and finding ones you enjoy. And again, there should be more information on the PDF I'll compile. So finally, the last activity is buying less. Buying less means simply investing in pieces that will last you a long time, as opposed to purchasing things that may be inexpensive but will only last you a short time. Buying less means contributing less waste to the earth and being more mindful of how ethically you shop. You can buy less at affordable prices by shopping vintage. Though shopping vintage may be more complicated compared to shopping traditional retail, the items are often built to last and can be purchased at much lower prices than traditional retail. So before I end this presentation, I would love to talk a little more about RUG. So it's not just me. There are a bunch of other people who are in leadership positions. For example, like going forward, we're in a transition time. So we're actually transitioning more people into leadership positions since a lot of people are graduating. So I am the secretary/treasurer, like I said, but we also have our president, who's, I'm actually blanking on his last name, but I'll look at it. Gavin Schaefer, who's a sophomore, our vice president, Eleanor Fortier, who's a junior, and yeah, me, obviously. But the people who used to be president, vice president, social media manager were Izzy Menendez, who was our vice president, Anna, I forgot her last name, who's our president, but and Natalie Goodhart, who's our social media manager. So we're definitely a pretty structured team of people. And you can reach out to us on Instagram if you have any questions. We're under @RUGreen. It says there on the slide. And I haven't prepared the PDF yet, but I swear I will. And I'll send it out to everyone. And it'll just contain information on the organizations, policies, and activities we talked about. And again, I'm sorry I went through this so fast, but I'm just nervous. And I'm so happy that you let me be here. But there is a more structured final statement I wanted to make, which is here. So the importance of community in promoting sustainability. Though personal responsibility may play a role in fighting for the environment, what is even more valuable in the fight for a better tomorrow is community. In building communities through sustainability, we can make sweeping systemic change that is built to last. Improving the environment is not a battle that should be fought alone, but collectively. Finally, I would like to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come hear me speak. And please, 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 if you have any questions, ask me. I wish you all the best of luck in your endeavors in building a brighter tomorrow. And I know that I will be fighting alongside you. Yeah, but please ask me questions.
Thank you so much, Haley. That was terrific. And I do have some questions, absolutely. And I'm sure that our members will have questions as well. So I will start with the questions. The first one, though, actually is a little bit of a statement, which is that Haley mentioned that she's got did you say a minor in French?
Yes, you used to teach at my school.
Because I wanted to say that I used to teach at the French school where Haley where she learned French, and Haley was actually one of my students. So I was thrilled because she was such a great third grade student that I was a little nervous because it's hard for me to see you as a grown up. So it was hard for me to imagine a third grader giving this presentation, but if any third grader could, it was you. So thank you very much. That was terrific. And so my question about that, I actually know the answer, but I think I know the answer. So you mentioned that we should have environmental education in our classrooms. Is that something that you had when you were in school at Academy Lafayette?
Yeah, definitely. I think I definitely did. I remember we went on a lot of field trips, to just explore nature, going to different places. Yeah, it was like the highlight of my school, being at school. I remember I would be so excited to go on those field trips.
Mhm. Cool. All right, we have other questions. I have other questions, but I'm going to turn it over to the audience first. So Riva, then Crystal, then Donna, then Cheryl. Riva?
Okay, Haley, thank you so much. I actually had a really good buddy who used to teach at Academy Lafayette, Betty Bremser. I don't know if she was ever your teacher, but so I've got a question for you about the food. I agree there's so much food waste, and I don't know how we as a community, I think you're right, we need as a community to collect food from restaurants and schools, and any place that serves food is, number one, going to have waste, but they're also going to have food that's possibly edible. It doesn't have to be perfect for it to be good. And I think that's, the problem we have in this country is if there's a bruise on it, we're not going to eat it. So can you give us some suggestions like this Candy's place? I mean, do they go to these restaurants or like Panera that has to get rid of food every day because they can't sell it the next day? I mean, it just seems crazy sometimes. So what kind of things would you suggest for that?
I would suggest just reaching out to different restaurants and organizations that might provide food, and just asking them if maybe they'd be willing to donate the food that they aren't selling to an organization or something like that, or asking them about like what they're doing with their food waste, whether they're composting it or not. I think it's so important to hold restaurants accountable for that kind of stuff in particular. Yeah, I think that's the best way, is really, really, talking to people who are in the food service industry and making sure that they're doing what is ethical.
Yeah, I'm going to support that because when we go and get takeout, this wasn't true during the pandemic, but now that we're going back to real life, when we go get takeout, we take in our own containers and we ask restaurants to put them in our own in our reusable containers. And I think that one step like that can make a difference. People see you, they copy you, they oh, that was a good idea. And I'm also going to mention my father, that he lived in an assisted living building, and he managed to spearhead an effort to change their policy about styrofoam and got styrofoam removed from that facility. So I'm going to support what Haley said. Where you go, where you eat, where you shop, that's where you have influence. Yeah. Crystal.
Hey Haley, first of all, wow, it's just this generation is just so amazing. You did a wonderful job. I wanted to know, especially about the food deserts. I know we talk about a lot of urban areas, but also in rural areas. And 20 years ago, believe it or not, I didn't have gray hair, but I was a master gardener, and we had an initiative to plant gardens, on vacant lots, not, and has your organization, you guys are so with RUG, have you guys looked at maybe working with the gardeners to maybe get people to, to plant gardens in vacant lots? That's what we did. I know Juniper Gardens, we did it over in KCK. And have you guys thought about that? Maybe giving people seeds to plant vegetables and stuff where they do have food deserts at?
Yeah, I don't know that we have, but that's such a good idea. I'll talk to my organization about that. I think that would be so cool. I mean, they probably have, since I'm so new to the organization, but I would love to do that again with them. So yeah, that's such a good idea.
Yeah. Donna?
Yes, I wanted to say a couple of things. That one, we have Brandy on our Zoom, and one of our Brandies actually works for Canby Market, or the other Brandy, Blackburn, is a brand new member. So I wanted to mention that.
Cool.
I wanted to ask, are you following legislation? Are you doing anything about some of the environment is such a big issue, but I know there are things about from chemical spills or such that have been, are in legislation. There's a big deal. And then there's the wind energy. There's some bills or some things that's preventing that. Are you mainly focused on food and activities that you can do as individuals?
No, actually, we are focused on activities we can do as individuals. We are also focusing on legislation that promotes sustainability. I know that my president and my vice president know a lot more about that kind of stuff than I do, because they're usually the ones that initiate things like that. But yeah, we definitely are, following legislation. Well, I can't think of any concrete things we're doing right now to promote legislation. I'm sure that we will sometime in the future. So that's definitely a part of our mission. So it's not just initial activity.
Do you partner or network with the Sierra Club and other?
Yes, we do actually. Yeah, we partner with a bunch of different organizations, but I think we've done a lot of that in the past. We're just this year, I know that we are focusing a little more on individual activities, but hopefully next semester we'll be able to partner with more organizations. Even though we've partnered with a few, I would definitely love to expand our reach.
Well, I'm going to jump in because I was going to save this for last to include it with the thank yous, but we would like to offer you a membership in the League of Women Voters as a thank you for coming in and doing this wonderful presentation for us. So we would also love to partner with you, with your organization at Rockhurst, and we can help get the word out if there are some bills that you've noticed need some action, you need people to submit testimony or call the representatives. We're happy to work with you on that. So keep us in mind, please. And welcome to the league.
Oh, that's so great. You
Yeah.
guys meet, when do you meet?
We meet monthly. Well, we have all kinds of committee meetings. So you'll get to see the committees, the secret members only part of the website. And so you'll see where the committees meet and everything. But then we meet once a month on the second Saturday of every month.
That sounds great. I'd love to be a part. Oh my gosh, it's so
Excellent.
cool.
And also I wanted to mention, we have actually partnered with Canby's in the past. We produced some voter registration. Wow, we've suddenly got a whole bunch of people in the waiting room.
And your dad is gay.
Huh?
Please
Your
ignore
dad
him.
is
He's just
gay.
a
Your dad
he's
is
just a troll.
gay.
Please ignore him.
Hi. Hi, everybody. We've got some new people who've just joined us. Thank you. We're discussing our presentation that we just watched. So welcome. Anyway, we have partnered with Canby's Foods in the past. We produced voter information packets that we then had attached to the side of the Canby's Market coolers. And so they're great to work with, and they've got those coolers in.
Can I
all
put my
kinds of-
balls in your jaw?
Oh, regardez un cornichon!
Yeah, we may have
Balls in your jaw.
we may have some interlopers. All right. Well, anyway. sorry about that.
Besabar! Adoube! Adoube!
Oh, regardez un cornichon!
Adoube! Besabar!
Give me one moment, please, and we'll take care of
Hey,
that.
Annie! Hey, Annie! Why are you smiling? Your host is very angry on you. Arey, Annie also host. Annie,
My apologies.
Annie is already host. Hey, Annie.
I think our meeting has been,
Hey,
I think
Anita,
our
why are you
meeting has
laughing?
been
Hey, Crystal, why are you laughing, Crystal?
Let me find this gentleman. I can't find him to remove
Hey.
him.
Annie is angry on you, Crystal. Why are you laughing? Don't laugh. Annie is texting me. Crystal is
Okay,
Hey,
so
Jim. Hey, Jim, why are you looking here and there?
I can't find this gentleman to remove him.
It's Lauren Frost. Do you see that name?
why don't you disconnect the call and let us back in one by one?
And you put them in the waiting room.
One more, and then I think we may be good. Okay.
Is this what you call being hacked or bombed? or something?
Well, we got a warning from Zoom that we needed to put in some more protections, and we said, well, we have open meetings, so we'll just deal with it when it happens, and so it did.
It's
So,
okay. Okay, let's continue with the meeting.
Should we just drop off, Ann, and come back in?
I think we're okay. I think we've removed the last. I think we've removed the last of them. Yep. So I think we'll be all right. Thank you. All right. Thank you for your patience. So anyway, we were talking about Canby Markets. That was exciting. Before I move on to other questions, I had one other question, which was about Canby Markets. You had mentioned that we could participate in maybe sorting food or going to the actual place to to help. Do you know where the Canby Markets is located?
I don't know the exact address, but I can look it up right now. It's, I know that it's near downtown. All right. It's 3119 Terrace Street, Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay, so that's probably not far from Scraps KC.
Yeah.
As well. Yeah. Okay. Becky has a question.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to mention, because my faithful volunteer reminded me, we are trying to set up voter registration and information distribution at the Brookside Farmers Market. And I'm hoping that we can get back to City Market at some point in time, because there's a very young, kind of constantly moving population there. That's a good one to hit up for voting, as well as any of these issues. And I think our presenter should know that she could probably work with our environmental committee and get some volunteers if they do something like a picking up waste at public parks, or trying to distribute information, or anything, any kind of a public event. You might be able to get some league volunteers. So just saying.
That sounds great.
Excellent. All right. Any other questions for our esteemed? Oh, two. Yes, Stacy, and then Lorraine.
Hi. There used to be something at Indian Springs Mall. I never got over there, but where they collected things. And so I'm wondering, is Scraps the same kind of thing, or do they just do art supplies?
I think that they mostly do art supplies and also school supplies, from what I understand.
But they have like knitting supplies. I know that my daughter used to go to Scraps to get yarn, and so it's not just for artists, it's also for, you know, hobbyists. Okay, Lorraine, you had a question? If you're do you have a question, Lorraine?
Sorry, I was on mute. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Oh, I just want to say one thing about Scraps. I've taken so many things there, old yarn, fabric, office supplies, and it's just such a fun place. I've gotten supplies there too for kids' crafts activities like crayons and safety scissors and stuff. So it's just a feel-good place. But the real thing I wanted to say, I'm kind of reverberating. Can you get
more a little bit reverberating? It's okay.
So I talked to Becky about having voter registration at the City Market, and I'm also working with another group, the Citizens Climate Lobby, to get a table at that same at the market. Their focus is lobbying legislators for climate action. So just FYI, and then also the Compost Collective is at the City Market too. They will either pick up your bucket at the City Market, you could take it there, or they have other drop places, off places, or you can drop it off yourself. So anyway, that market I think has a lot of good things going.
Yeah, I wanted to mention something about composting too, that we compost, and you can compost the lazy way as well. Like the way that you described is the way to get compost created, you know, made quickly. It's to get the materials broken down within a year. But we have a little bit of space behind our garage, and we just make a compost pile, and then we make another compost pile, and then we make another compost pile. And then by the time we're done, you know, 4 years later, we can go and take that first compost pile and spread it over the garden, and we've never turned our compost once, and we've used it, all of it. We compost all of our food waste. So it doesn't, if you have a little bit of space, it doesn't actually have to be even as complicated as Haley described. That's the ideal way, but that is not the Ann way.
Yeah, I do have something somewhat embarrassing to admit. I've never composted my own stuff. My mom does all the composting in our house, so I don't actually know how to like do it hand by hand. So I mean, I'm sure your method works just as well.
Yeah, although I will say I did one year not cook things that well enough. They have to reach a certain amount of certain temperature before the materials break down, and it's called cooking. And I didn't cook it well enough last year because we had a new garage built, so we lost our space behind the garage. But the benefit of that was that we had about 10 wild tomato plants of all different varieties, and they were delicious. So it worked out just fine. In fact, it worked out better. But, all right, any other questions for Haley before, yep, Cheryl. Oh, Cheryl, I'm sorry, I did forget. And you're on mute. You'll need to unmute, Cheryl. We may have lost you, Cheryl. We don't see your camera anymore, nor can we hear you. We may have to come back to you.
Going once. Going
Sorry, Cheryl. Okay.
Looks like she just got back on. Is that her phone, Cheryl's phone?
I don't think she did. All right, well, we'll come back around if she hops back on a little bit later. So I wanted to announce our next month's meeting will feature Tiffany Muller, who is the director of Citizens United. She is the director of End Citizens United. So she will be talking about threats to our democracy, specifically money and politics. So that's going to be a good one. I hope you'll join us for that. And then I also wanted to turn the floor over to Donna, who's going to talk about Sunshine Week, which is next week, and our presentation that we are doing on Monday. So she's going to disappear so that you can all read her card, and I'm going to spotlight her so that you have no choice but to look at it. All right, Donna, take it away.
Well, thank you so much. I want to invite all of you to this upcoming event. It's just Monday at 6. It's a Zoom webinar, and we are blessed to have the Director of Compliance and Transparency and all at the Attorney General's office, Casey Lawrence, who will be our speaker. You just go to the League website and register, and I'd love for you to encourage or send out an invitation to other groups or your friends, because open government is good government. We need to be aware of what our governmental agencies are doing, and the law allows us to do that. So it will be live streamed. You can get the Zoom link, or you can view it on our YouTube page. It'll be posted after the recording is made. If you have questions, you can send them to the Observer Corps at LWVKC, because I'll be doing that, and I can forward out invitation if you have someone you want me to invite. But you have any questions, please ask them, and let's see if I can answer them. But yeah, do come. And we've been a lot of hard work done by the Observer Corps meeting, and like I've invited my Hickman Mills School Board, got a positive. It's going to be announced at the Missouri Voter Protection Coalition. Ann's recorded a public service announcement. So we were really inviting other leagues. We want, when we have this opportunity, we want everyone to observe it. Casey is going to do one section, take questions like about open meetings, and then another section maybe on compliance and take questions. So yeah, thank you for giving me this opportunity to advertise.
Of course. And I think Mary Lindsay had her hand up, so she may have a question about
Yes.
that.
I'm thinking that I've seen a bill that is going through the works, though I'm not tracking it, that would do something to change the sunshine laws, certainly to make them less shiny. So am I right? I mean, Donna?
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, I've been following 4 or 5 bills in the House that are going nowhere. And then on March 10th, which was just yesterday, no, Thursday, a Senate bill went through committee and was due pass. Pardon me, that's making some changes. And there was no one that testified against it, even though they had some people from Sunshine on it. They just provided information. Pardon me, I've asked Nancy Copenhagen to review it. Pardon me, I've got to get a drink.
Okay, you should. All right, Stacy,
Well,
did you have a
when
question?
I just wanted to follow up on
Sure.
that when it, if it's passed the Senate, it will go to the House, and then we can easily, without going to Jefferson City, we can submit testimony online. And so it sounds like something that we, the League of Women Voters, are going to want to jump all over. Well, we're going to look at it, but I bet it's bad.
Well, and that's a nice segue into be sure you're looking at the legislative update. Be sure you're looking at the legislative update every week, because we will look into this and talk about that. So I see more hands, Stacy, then Pauline, then Cheryl, then I saw Peg's hand up, and Peg. Okay.
And just real quick, Donna, did you say that you have something for us to send to other organizations? I just thought of someone I could send that to.
Yes, I've got a email that I send that attaches the press release and explains.
So should I just reach out to you then privately? Okay.
I'll forward that to you, Stacy.
And please forward it to me. I mean, I'm thinking maybe to a lot of people.
Yeah. Perfect. Thanks, Donna.
Yeah.
Great. All right, Pauline.
Yeah, hi. I've been following, there was an editorial in the Examiner about House Bill 2049, which is going to make a lot of changes in the Sunshine Law that will hurt the Sunshine Law. And I've been trying to follow that. It's up for the second reading, the last I checked, in the House. I don't know how many readings it has, but that's where it's at.
Okay.
It's HB 2049.
Okay.
So,
Mary, we should get that put into our legislative software. HB 2049, you said?
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And the editorial was by Dennis Ellsworth of the Missouri Sunshine Coalition. He wrote a long editorial about how dangerous that bill is.
Can you forward that to me?
Yeah, forward. You also forward that information to Mary Lindsay so we can get it tracked with our legislative action committee.
Okay, I'd be glad to. I didn't know how many readings they have and how close it was.
They have 3, and then they go to the other chamber, and then they reconcile it. So we may have some time.
Okay.
Yeah, we're halfway through the legislative session. And by the way, no legislative update this week because the legislature is on spring break. Thank goodness. We all need a chance to catch our breath. Okay. Cheryl, I think, was next.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good. I will start out by saying my daughter went to the North Kansas City School District, and she was in grade school in the 70s at a more progressive school. But kindergarten on, her teachers, the whole school was very much on the environment, very progressive for the time. And I think that made a lifelong impact on her and others of her era. So that leads to my question to Haley is, it seems to me it'd be a really good outreach for your group at Rockhurst to go to grade schools or even preschools for the students to go and do short presentations on the environment, climate change, and so on, you know, age appropriate. But I'm just wondering if this is being considered.
That does sound like a good idea. I'll bring it up with the group.
So, yeah.
Yeah, good idea. All right, Peg, you're next.
Hey, Donna, I'm not going to be able to attend the meeting, but I understand you invited election board, office election board folks. Can I send you a couple of questions that might be able to be asked of them?
Send them, Peg. We'll see about entering them, although mainly it's going to be Casey answering questions, but she might specify what election boards, because we think, for example, that in Clay County, they are not advertising their meetings, and that is a requirement. So we're hoping, you know, that we can get, because sometimes it's people just need to be educated. They don't realize, and you don't need to bring out the two before you need to bring out the carrot. But we're inviting them. We're inviting school boards. We're inviting Jackson County Legislature, the City Council, just anyone we know. We're trying to invite, and then we're sending it out to partner groups that we hope someone from there will join us.
Okay.
And I can send this. But you know, the Sunshine Law affects governments, not my HOA about having open meetings. It's really government entities. And we've had the Sunshine Law, I believe this may be the 22nd year, at least the group that promotes Sunshine Week.
Yeah, it mostly has to do with like the requirement that they have to share the filing information when a candidate files.
Okay.
They have certain information that they put out there, and it's difficult for some of these smaller towns and villages that they do not share that information without quite a bit of prodding to like, hey, why don't you call the election board, or why don't you call so-and-so, because they don't think they can provide somebody's email address.
Oh, I remember in Cass County calling groups, it's really an issue. And the State League had to use the open records request for the first time, trying to get the addresses of the people appointed to the redistricting commission.
Okay, so I'll send you a couple questions that have to do with that.
Very good. Yes. Thank you.
All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming. I particularly want to thank Haley for such a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much. I want to thank Cheryl for putting that presentation together. Pauline for putting together our programs every month and making it so easy that all I have to do is print off the agenda the morning of. And I want to thank Crystal for running our tech stuff, and Judy Ann for, well, I think Crystal did Facebook today too. So Crystal for tech and Facebook. So thank you so much. And yes, Riva is right. Welcome Haley to the league. So yeah, excellent. And thank you all for coming. I know I learned a whole bunch today. So I hope that you guys did too. And we could take that knowledge and spread it and use it and learn it, love it, live it. All right. Thank you. And we'll see you next month. Have a great
Bye.
afternoon, everybody.
Thank
Okay.
you.